On a warm spring evening in Dallas, Texas, April 14, 1986, 23-year-old Samantha Lane left her part-time job at a local bookstore just as the streetlights flickered on. Samantha was known for her bright energy, meticulous nature, and dedication to her community. A college student studying history, she volunteered at a nearby youth center and was beloved by family and friends for her humor, intelligence, and kindness. That evening, she carried her tote bag filled with books, notes, and her personal diary, intending to walk the short distance back to her apartment in the East Oak Cliff neighborhood. Her walk was familiar and routine. Samantha typically greeted shopkeepers, waved to neighbors, and admired the early blooms of spring along the quiet streets. But that evening, she never arrived home. When phone calls went unanswered, her roommate contacted her parents, Linda and Marcus Lane, who immediately notified the Dallas Police Department. What began as a missing person report quickly became a high-priority investigation, as Samantha's disappearance was uncharacteristic, sudden, and deeply concerning. Detective Carlos Mendoza was assigned to the case. He understood the gravity. Samantha was careful, aware of her surroundings, and never stayed out late without notifying someone. The initial investigation concentrated on retracing her path, interviewing neighbors, canvassing the neighborhood, and checking nearby establishments. Early leads included reports of a dark vehicle parked near the alley behind her apartment and a shadowy figure seen following her along Commerce Street, but no license plate numbers or definitive descriptions could be secured. The investigation quickly ran into obstacles. Surveillance technology in 1986 was minimal, and film-based cameras were often grainy and unreliable. The bustling neighborhood made eyewitness testimony inconsistent, and key witnesses could only offer vague recollections. Police meticulously documented statements, tracked down leads, and followed every possible thread. But within weeks, the trail began to fade. Samantha's family refused to let the case fade. Linda and Marcus distributed flyers, organized neighborhood searches, and appeared on local radio programs pleading for information. Friends and co-workers joined the effort, circulating her photo and appealing to anyone who might have seen her. But as months turned into years, leads remained sparse and frustration grew. The case became a cold file, preserved carefully in the hope that one day, advances in technology or memory might reveal the truth. In the early 2000s, the Dallas Police Department established a dedicated cold case unit. Detective Elaine Harper, renowned for her meticulous attention to detail, reopened Samantha Lane's case. She examined every existing file, every note, and every piece of preserved evidence. What had been considered minor in 1986, fibers found near a dumpster behind her apartment, a partial fingerprint on a street lamp, and hair samples collected from the alleyway, was now reevaluated using modern forensic methods. DNA analysis became a pivotal tool. Hair samples that could not be conclusively tested decades earlier were now examined with advanced extraction and sequencing methods. Partial fingerprints, once dismissed as inconclusive, were scanned and compared against national databases. Investigators discovered a potential match to Gregory Turner, a man with a prior record of minor offenses and suspicious behavior in Dallas during the mid-1980s. Turner had lived and worked near Samantha's neighborhood at the time of her disappearance. Witnesses from the original investigation were re-interviewed. Using modern cognitive interviewing techniques, a local diner waitress recalled seeing a tall man lingering near Samantha's usual route as she left the bookstore. Another neighbor remembered a dark sedan parked near the alleyway adjacent to her apartment building. Though decades had passed, their recollections, aligned with physical evidence, allowed investigators to reconstruct Samantha's movements with unprecedented clarity. The cold case unit meticulously reconstructed a timeline for April 14, 1986. Samantha left the bookstore at 7:15 p.m., walked along Commerce Street, and turned down the alley leading to East Oak Cliff. Turner's known locations, corroborated by utility records, employment history, and neighborhood accounts, placed him near Samantha during this critical window. Each confirmed presence helped investigators establish opportunity and possible interactions. Turner's former residences and storage units became a focus. Clothing and personal items recovered contained fibers matching those collected from the alley and surrounding areas. Hair fragments were consistent with Samantha's DNA, establishing a direct link. Each recovered item, though small on its own, combined with other evidence to form a coherent chain connecting Turner to the crime. Interrogation of Turner began carefully. Detective Harper presented the cumulative findings: DNA matches, fiber evidence, fingerprints, and witness recollections. Turner initially denied any involvement, attempting to explain his presence in the area as coincidental. The questioning was strategic, alternating between pauses and careful confrontation to observe inconsistencies in his account. Confronted with overwhelming forensic evidence, Turner eventually admitted to being near Samantha but minimized his role, claiming he had no interaction with her. Investigators mapped Turner's movements alongside Samantha's reconstructed path. Spatial analysis demonstrated multiple intersections between his location and her route. Each point of contact aligned with forensic findings and witness accounts, reinforcing the narrative. This reconstruction was essential for the prosecution, creating a clear, evidence-backed picture of what had likely occurred during Samantha's final hours. Behavioral analysis added depth. Turner's historical patterns, previous minor offenses, reports of loitering and suspicious activity, were reviewed. While these did not directly prove guilt, they offered context, demonstrating tendencies consistent with the suspect's proximity to Samantha and possible motivations. The integration of behavioral forensic and eyewitness evidence formed a multi-layered case. Friends, neighbors, and former co-workers contributed additional insight. They recalled Samantha's routines, personality, and careful habits. Her attentiveness and predictability helped verify timelines and interpret witness observations. Their participation preserved the human element of the case, ensuring that the investigation remained focused on the life of a young woman. Tragically disrupted rather than solely on abstract evidence, every piece of physical evidence underwent rigorous testing and verification. DNA samples were analyzed multiple times, fiber matches were independently confirmed, and fingerprints underwent repeated scrutiny. Laboratories ensured that all methods met modern scientific standards. These efforts guaranteed that the evidence could withstand cross-examination and be presented convincingly in court. The cold case unit also examined Turner's communications and movements in the days before and after Samantha's disappearance. Employment records, phone logs, and residence histories were scrutinized for patterns or anomalies. This process helped reinforce the reconstructed timeline and establish the suspect's opportunity for involvement. Community engagement played a vital role in maintaining momentum. Local news reports, social media updates, and outreach events encouraged residents to share memories, observations, and any additional details. Friends of Samantha organized memorial walks and fundraisers, keeping attention on the case and humanizing the investigation for law enforcement and the public alike. Clara Lane's parents contributed extensively to the timeline reconstruction. Linda and Marcus described Samantha's daily routines, commute, and habits. Their detailed accounts allowed investigators to cross-reference witness statements and physical evidence, ensuring the reconstructed path was accurate and credible. They provided context that helped explain patterns, reconcile minor discrepancies, and validate forensic findings. All evidence, witness statements, and investigative notes were meticulously prepared for legal presentation. Maps, visual aids, and chronological timelines illustrated Samantha's movements, Turner's location, and the placement of forensic findings. This allowed the case to be presented as a coherent, compelling story in court, emphasizing both scientific rigor and human impact. Investigators also considered alternate explanations. Each theory was tested against cumulative evidence and systematically eliminated. Coincidence, misidentification, and error were addressed and disproven. The integration of modern forensic analysis with decades-old witness statements created a robust and persuasive narrative of events. Detective Harper reflected on the importance of careful documentation and preservation. Every note, fiber, and witness statement from 1986 proved invaluable decades later. Without these records, this case might never have been solved, she said. Patience, science, and dedication were the keys to uncovering the truth. By 2022, investigators had compiled a complete, verified case against Gregory Turner. Every element of Samantha's disappearance had been reconstructed and corroborated. The combination of physical evidence, witness testimony, behavioral analysis, and Turner's partial admissions created a compelling narrative, ready for presentation to prosecutors and ultimately a jury. The story of Samantha Lane's disappearance, once shrouded in uncertainty, was now illuminated by decades of diligent investigation, modern forensic science, and unwavering determination. Each preserved clue, re-examined in the light of contemporary methods, had transformed a cold case into a clear path to justice. Once Gregory Turner was identified as a person of interest, the focus shifted to detailed reconstruction of the night Samantha Lane disappeared. Detective Elaine Harper and her cold case unit worked tirelessly to ensure every movement, every interaction, and every trace of evidence was thoroughly examined. While decades had passed, careful preservation of notes, witness statements, and physical evidence allowed investigators to reconstruct the events of April 14, 1986. With remarkable clarity, Turner's confirmed whereabouts were scrutinized. Employment records, utility bills, and residence histories placed him in proximity to Samantha's route that evening. Witness statements from neighbors and shopkeepers were revisited. A local cafe owner recalled seeing a tall man loitering near Commerce Street shortly after 7:15 p.m., matching the time frame when Samantha had left the bookstore. Another witness remembered a dark sedan parked near the alleyway adjacent to her apartment. These recollections, faint yet consistent, allowed investigators to create a detailed sequence of events. Physical evidence became central to the investigation. Fibers recovered from the alleyway, and nearby trash bins matched materials from Turner's clothing. Hair fragments preserved for decades were tested using modern DNA techniques and confirmed to belong to Samantha. Fingerprints previously deemed inconclusive were analyzed with updated technology and placed Turner at the library's rear entrance. Each piece, seemingly minor on its own, formed a clear pattern of interaction and proximity between Turner and Samantha. Interviews with witnesses from 1986 were conducted using cognitive techniques designed to enhance recollection. Memory refreshers, photographs, and guided questioning helped individuals recall critical details that had been overlooked. The accounts of people who had observed Turner's vehicle, his presence near the alleyway, and interactions around the time Samantha disappeared were combined with forensic data, creating a coherent timeline of events. Turner's personal history was examined to understand behavioral patterns. Previous minor offenses, instances of loitering, and suspicious behavior in the Dallas area during the mid-1980s were analyzed. While these records did not constitute direct evidence, they provided context and insight into his tendencies, helping investigators interpret his actions and potential motives. The cold case unit meticulously mapped Turner's movements against Samantha's reconstructed path. Points of intersection coincided with locations where fibers, hair, and fingerprints were recovered. Each recovered piece of evidence supported a timeline that clearly placed Turner near Samantha at critical moments. This spatial analysis was pivotal in linking him to the crime in a way that would be understandable in court. Investigators also examined Turner's belongings recovered from storage units and former residences. Clothing and personal items contained fibers matching those collected near the alley and dumpsters. Additional fragments of hair consistent with Samantha's DNA were found on his possessions. Each recovery reinforced the growing narrative that Turner had been physically connected to Samantha in the hours leading to her disappearance. During interrogation, Turner initially denied involvement. Detective Harper presented the accumulated evidence in a stepwise manner. DNA matches, fiber and hair evidence, fingerprint analysis, witness recollections, and reconstructed timelines. Strategic pauses in questioning allowed investigators to observe inconsistencies in his statements. Faced with the undeniable weight of scientific and testimonial evidence, Turner admitted to being near Samantha, but attempted to minimize the nature of his interaction. The investigation also explored every potential alternative scenario. Investigators tested theories of misidentification, coincidence, and error in preserved evidence. Each hypothesis was systematically examined and ruled out. The combination of modern forensic analysis, corroborated witness accounts, and a verified timeline created an airtight case, leaving little room for doubt. Community participation played a crucial role throughout the investigation. Local residents, former classmates, and friends contributed personal recollections of Samantha's routines, habits, and personality. Their insights provided context for the reconstructed timeline and helped investigators interpret physical evidence. Public awareness campaigns highlighted the importance of resolving cold cases and maintaining community engagement over time. Samantha's parents, Linda and Marcus Lane, were deeply involved in verifying reconstructed details. They described her daily routines, likely paths, and behavior patterns. Their observations helped align witness accounts with physical evidence, ensuring the timeline was accurate. Their perspectives also emphasized Samantha's character and habits, humanizing the narrative and reinforcing the significance of justice. Forensic experts underwent rigorous testing to confirm the reliability of evidence. DNA, fiber, and fingerprint analyses were repeated multiple times by independent laboratories to verify results. The meticulous documentation and verification ensured that each piece of evidence could withstand legal scrutiny and cross-examination during trial. Investigators examined Turner's communications, movements, and social interactions in the days surrounding Samantha's disappearance. Employment logs, telephone records, and residence data were analyzed for patterns, inconsistencies, or corroborating evidence. These efforts further reinforced the reconstructed timeline and demonstrated Turner's proximity and opportunity. All evidence, witness statements, and timelines were carefully organized for prosecutorial review. Visual aids, maps, and chronological reconstructions allowed for clear presentation, demonstrating the sequence of events from multiple perspectives. The narrative combined scientific rigor with emotional resonance, highlighting both the human impact and the investigatory diligence that led to Turner's identification. Community interest and support remained high. Friends, neighbors, and classmates followed the ongoing investigation closely. Memorial walks, social media campaigns, and local news coverage kept Samantha's story alive in the public consciousness, ensuring that her disappearance and the subsequent investigation remained a priority for both law enforcement and the community. Detective Harper emphasized the importance of evidence preservation, meticulous documentation, and patience. Every note, every fiber, and every witness account mattered, she said. Even decades later, they became the key to uncovering the truth. This case shows that persistence combined with science can deliver justice. By early 2023, investigators had compiled a complete and verified case against Turner. Every aspect of Samantha's disappearance had been examined, reconstructed, and corroborated. Physical evidence, witness testimony, behavioral analysis, and Turner's admissions formed a comprehensive narrative, ready for presentation in court. Samantha Lane's story, once shrouded in mystery, had been illuminated through decades of careful investigation, modern forensic science, and unwavering determination. The preserved traces of her life, meticulously documented and re-examined, transformed a cold case into a clear path toward justice. The courtroom in Dallas buzzed with anticipation as the trial for Gregory Turner began. The atmosphere was heavy with decades of unresolved grief and expectation. Linda and Marcus Lane sat together, holding hands tightly, their faces etched with both sorrow and hope. Friends, family, journalists, and community members filled the seats, many of them having followed Samantha's disappearance for decades. The trial represented the culmination of years of persistent investigation and relentless pursuit of justice. The prosecution opened by presenting Samantha not as a missing file or a case number, but as a vibrant, intelligent, and compassionate young woman whose life had been unjustly interrupted. Witnesses described her dedication to volunteering at the youth center, her passion for history, and the warmth she brought to everyone around her. The jury was reminded of the human stakes, that this was not merely a crime to be solved, but a life unjustly taken and a family left in anguish. Detective Elaine Harper presented the reconstructed timeline of April 14, 1986. Samantha had left the bookstore at 7:15 p.m., walking along Commerce Street and turning down the alley leading to East Oak Cliff. Turner's confirmed presence in the area, supported by employment records, utility bills, and neighborhood accounts, established opportunity. Visual aids illustrated the reconstructed route, the locations of fibers, hair, and fingerprints, and the placement of Turner's vehicle. This allowed the jury to follow the sequence of events clearly and logically. Forensic experts took the stand. Dr. Jonathan Hayes explained the fiber matches linking Turner's clothing to the alley and surrounding areas, the DNA analysis confirming Samantha's hair fragments, and the fingerprint found at the rear of the bookstore. Each piece of evidence was presented with accessible explanations, showing the reliability and precision of modern forensic science. The experts emphasized the evolution of investigative methods, demonstrating how evidence preserved for decades could now definitively connect Turner to Samantha. Witnesses from 1986 were brought back to testify, using refreshed memories guided by cognitive interviewing techniques and photographs. The cafe owner recalled seeing a tall man lingering near Commerce Street around the time Samantha left the bookstore. A neighbor remembered the dark sedan parked near the alleyway. Although memories had faded, the combination of multiple consistent accounts with scientific evidence created a compelling narrative of Turner's presence near Samantha during the critical time window. Turner's defense attempted to discredit witness memories and the validity of old evidence. They argued that recollections were unreliable and that fibers could have transferred innocently. The prosecution countered by demonstrating meticulous preservation and modern testing of all evidence. Independent verification of DNA, fingerprints, and fiber matches confirmed the accuracy and reliability of the findings. Every potential challenge was systematically addressed, leaving little room for doubt. Linda and Marcus Lane shared their personal memories of Samantha, providing insight into her habits, routines, and personality. Linda described her daughter's meticulous attention to safety and responsibility, while Marcus recalled her daily routines and interactions with neighbors and friends. Their testimonies humanized the case, showing the jury the person behind the evidence and emphasizing the impact of her disappearance on family and community. Behavioral analysis of Turner was introduced. Records of prior minor offenses, loitering, and suspicious behavior were presented to illustrate patterns consistent with his conduct during Samantha's disappearance. While not direct proof of guilt, these insights helped the jury understand the suspect's tendencies and contextualized his actions in the broader narrative of the case. Throughout the trial, every piece of evidence was meticulously documented and presented in a clear, coherent manner. Reconstructed maps, visual timelines, and sequence charts allowed jurors to comprehend the complex interplay of physical evidence, witness testimony, and suspect admissions. The combination of science and narrative created a comprehensive understanding of what had transpired on that night in 1986. Turner's attempts to minimize responsibility were systematically dismantled. Denials were confronted with precise forensic evidence and consistent witness statements. His own admissions during police interviews, although initially vague, aligned with the reconstructed timeline, and provided further confirmation of his proximity and opportunity to commit the crime. The cumulative evidence formed a robust and persuasive case. As days of testimony concluded, the jury began deliberations. They carefully examined evidence, reviewed timelines, and weighed witness credibility. Maps, DNA reports, fiber matches, and photographic evidence were cross-referenced against statements and reconstructed sequences. After hours of careful consideration, the verdict was announced. We, the jury, find the defendant, Gregory Turner, guilty of first-degree murder and kidnapping. The announcement brought waves of emotion. Linda and Marcus Lane embraced, tears streaming down their faces as relief, grief, and closure mingled. Friends and neighbors expressed quiet triumph and support. After more than 35 years of uncertainty, justice had been achieved. Turner was immediately remanded to a maximum security facility, his appeals unlikely to overturn the overwhelming body of evidence. The resolution of the case had profound effects on the community. Candlelight vigils, memorial services, and local media coverage highlighted the significance of persistence, scientific advancement, and community involvement in resolving cold cases. Samantha's story became a symbol of hope, illustrating that even decades-old mysteries could be solved through diligence, forensic innovation, and unwavering dedication. Linda and Marcus became advocates for cold case reforms and awareness. They shared their experiences, emphasizing the importance of preserving evidence, documenting investigations thoroughly, and maintaining hope over extended periods. Their efforts inspired other families seeking justice for long unsolved cases, showing that persistence could eventually illuminate the truth. The cold case unit's work set an example for law enforcement. Procedures for evidence preservation, interagency collaboration, and review of long unresolved cases were strengthened. Samantha Lane's story demonstrated the value of revisiting cold cases with modern forensic methods and highlighted the importance of integrating behavioral analysis, witness testimony, and technological advancements. Samantha's legacy extended beyond justice. Scholarships, memorial programs, and community initiatives were established in her name, focusing on literacy, education, and public safety. Friends and family organized events honoring her life and contributions, ensuring her memory inspired future generations. The case became a model of how dedication and science could bring closure and meaning to a long, unresolved tragedy. Detective Harper reflected on the case's broader significance. This investigation shows that time does not erase truth. Every note, every fiber, every witness statement mattered. With patience and modern science, even the oldest cases can be solved, and justice can prevail. Her words underscored the essential role of persistence, community involvement, and the evolution of forensic methods in delivering long overdue accountability. For Dallas, the streets Samantha once walked became more than a backdrop for a tragedy. They were a testament to resilience, dedication, and the human capacity to seek justice. The neighborhood's vigilance, combined with the meticulous work of investigators, preserved the memory of Samantha and ensured that the truth could finally come to light. Decades of unanswered questions were replaced by clarity. The resolution of Samantha Lane's case proved that careful investigation, modern technology, and unwavering dedication could overcome the passage of time. Families, communities, and investigators alike were reminded that justice is a journey, sometimes long and arduous but ultimately achievable. Samantha Lane's story remains a beacon of hope and a testament to the power of perseverance. It illustrates that no matter how much time has passed, careful preservation of evidence, community support, and scientific advancement can illuminate truths once thought lost. Her life, and the pursuit of justice in her name, continues to inspire those dedicated to uncovering the truth and ensuring accountability.